For more, I'm joined by CBS Sports NFL writer Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, with the success we saw from the Lions in 2024, a first-round playoff bye followed by a disappointing upset loss to the Commanders, what is the vibe in Detroit as they ramp up for 2025 and try to replicate that regular season success?
Yeah, and I think that there's going to be an emphasis of trying to replicate the regular season success because you were the #1 seed, but I think it's also about preservation. I think they realize that, yes, of course, you'd love to be the #1 seed, have home field advantage in the first round bye that comes with it, but health and playing your best the right time of the year is a little bit more important because what they saw in that playoff loss to the Washington Commanders was they faced a team that was playing a lot better than them at that point on the calendar. So I think they maybe a little bit more situational and a little bit more tepid in terms of how they may approach the regular season. This is one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. So when they want to turn it on, they'll be able to, especially on the defensive side of the ball. If they can stay healthy, they have one of the better pass rushers in the NFL and Aidan Hutchinson coming back. But to me, it is how they can preserve themselves for the playoffs, less so trying to be the #1 seed yet again.
Yeah, can't peak too soon. A lot of their success, though, Tyler, due to their offense. Ben Johnson was integral in the Lions' offensive success in 2024, but of course, Detroit's former offensive coordinator is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. Our Evan Washburn spoke to Jared Goff about the change at OC. Goff downplayed the significance, saying, quote, "A lot of this stuff we're doing is very similar with Johnny Morton as the new OC." But Tyler, what do you expect the impact of losing Ben Johnson to have on the Lions' offense?
Yeah, I think it has to count for something, right? Because you can't commend the Chicago Bears for hiring arguably the best head coach that was available this hiring cycle and then saying, oh, well, actually, it doesn't mean anything for the Detroit Lions. Something needs to give. Either it's a not as great hire for the Chicago Bears or it is a substantial loss for the Detroit Lions. I think it is something that they're going to have to absorb going into this season. Yes, Morton may have some familiarity with this team. He was an offensive assistant in 2022 as the pass game coordinator under Sean Payton last season. So he has good pedigree. He has familiarity with this team, but you're talking about a Detroit Lions offense that scored the second most offensive touchdowns in NFL history last season. They were averaging over 30 points per game, one of the best offenses we've seen in recent memory. So you have to think they come down a little bit. And if I'm Jared Goff, you reference him, I think I would use this as motivation. We know players try to look for anything to motivate themselves going into a given season. I think he should look at this and say he is not the product of Ben Johnson. He is his own man. He is his own quarterback. Because if you look at the numbers, the most passing yards in the NFL, the most passing touchdowns in the NFL over the last 3 seasons, that correlates with Ben Johnson being promoted to offensive coordinator. If I'm him, I'm looking to try to replicate that production to show that he is not a byproduct of Ben Johnson. He has really ascended to one of the elite quarterbacks in the league.
Right. And I'm always fascinated when there's a change at coordinator because even if schematically it is quite similar, there's still a different voice in your ear giving you the play, different communication style, and seeing how that works out is going to be interesting as well. But on the defensive side of the ball in Detroit, Aidan Hutchinson back after a brutal leg injury that cut his 2024 season short back in week 6. Now, defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard says Hutchinson looks like a better player than he was before the injury. So how do you quantify, Tyler, Aidan Hutchinson's value to this Lions defense?
It's massive. It can't be overstated because this is a guy who right now is coming off, as you referenced, a devastating leg injury last season, but he is right now the second highest odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's only looking up to Micah Parsons. So the odds makers are telling us that they are getting someone who is among the favorites to win Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. You look at those numbers last season, 7.5 sacks, and he didn't even play half the year. And we talked earlier about the Washington game in the playoffs, the one-and-done appearance. I just want to point back to how important Aidan Hutchinson could have been in that game. Jaden Daniels, who was a shifty quarterback in his own right, but the Detroit Lions could not sack him at all in that game. They only hit him twice in that loss. So to me, I think if you have Aidan Hutchinson in that game, he's not going unscathed. So the fact that you're going to have that type of a pass rusher back into your defense, it means the absolute world, especially now that you play in what is an ever-growing, more competitive NFC North.
Absolutely. Now, Detroit, as we mentioned, coming off a franchise record 15-win regular season. Over-under for 2025 set at 10.5. So, Tyler, what are your expectations for the Lions record this year?
Yeah, I think they go under here. I think this is still a 10-win team. I think it's a very, very good 10-win team. I think it's a byproduct of, as I said earlier, one of the more difficult divisions in the NFL. I think they could split amongst their opponents, which would give them 3 losses on the season. And then you look at the schedule after week 5, or you can start at week 5, at the Bengals, at the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Vikings, the Commanders, and then the Eagles. That's a really tough schedule there. A lot of road games against some really elite offenses. I mean, you're talking about the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, the 2 teams really ahead of them in the NFC. If you talk about the defending Super Bowl champion and the other team that made it to the NFC Championship a year ago, the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead, obviously going to be a difficult opponent. We'll see what Cincinnati's defense looks like, but the offense is going to be tough to deal with. So you look at that schedule, 3rd toughest in the NFL. I think there is still a double-digit win team, but there's a lot of losses on that schedule. I still think they could win that division at 10-7. I still think they obviously make the playoffs. I just don't know if it's a number 1 seed, 15-win team like we saw a year ago.
Hey, as long as you mentioned, they peak at the right time, things could work out for the Lions. Tyler Sullivan, thanks so much for the insight. Detroit did it all during the regular season. Their 15 wins, 33.2 points per game, and plus 222-point differential were all tops in the NFL. How will they fare this season? Well, time will tell.